What is up, geeks and geekettes? It's a very special episode of the Countdown to the GeekCast. My name is Ted, aka Steady. Joining me tonight is the man behind the magic. You know him as Joe Garcia.
Yeah, it'd be cool if we had the black and white filter and we kind of dressed up as the Wolf Man for this episode, Ted. That would be a one for the books.
I'm halfway there. I'm halfway
I'm
there.
not. I, I,
Look at
sh- I had to shave because the wife got mad at me.
this. As you might have guessed, tonight we are talking all about Werewolf by
My night.
Night. This is our Werewolf by Night review. And if you haven't seen it, don't worry. We're not going to spoil anything just yet. Going to start off our conversation with a non spoilery overview. And then afterwards, we'll get into some spoilery topics and we will let you know before that happens. First off, Joe, before we get to our overview, you are a big werewolf fan. Like, you watch a lot of werewolf movies.
Yeah.
So you must have been extremely excited when this project was first announced. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. I was really excited because I read the comics again. Even back when I was a kid, I was reading Moon Knight. I was reading the altercations he used to have with Werewolf by Night. That kind of stuff, and it gave me hope when I saw the Moon Knight series. I'm like, man, it'd be cool if they bring Werewolf by Night out somehow. And it was to my dismay, it didn't happen, but they gave us this little tidbit here, and I was happy with it. I mean, being a fan of not only Werewolf by Night and kind of the comics that deal with the occult, like looking at Doctor Strange and all that weird stuff that Marvel would spin out. I mean, I was a fan of all of it, even the stuff from DC. Big fan of the werewolf movies from the 30s and 40s that Universal used to roll out there. The Wolfman drinking gasoline from a car, changing, and all that kind of stuff. Outrageous stuff, but it was fun nonetheless. And this was right along the lines of that, man. It brought back a lot of memories, especially the way that they had that intro, Ted, that retro intro. I mean, beautiful,
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah, and people who watch the show, I'm also a big horror movie guy. We talk about them all the time. I try and review as many as possible. And so this was extremely exciting to have a special presentation in the month of October, and Werewolf by Night, of all things. So I was also extremely excited going into this. Not to mention the cast that was announced. Adding Gael Garcia Bernal, who's a fantastic actor. That just like up the the anticipation even more. So yeah, looking forward to it. Let's go ahead and talk about it now. This is going to be our non-spoilery discussion, and I'm gonna start out by saying, man, this was so good. I wish it was a little bit longer, or I wish we had even more of it. But
A
it's so
series.
well done. Anything, right? It was so good. It's interesting, but also like it leaves you wanting more, which is not a bad thing. So it is a special presentation, meaning it's not exactly a movie, but it's not a limited series. What's by any means? It's mostly in black and white. You can tell that from the trailers, from our photo behind us. It is a sort of a single story within this confined space, and the choreography of like the fighting to the special effects to the set design to the score, everything is just perfectly put together. It's well thought out. It's not groundbreaking by any means, but there was an intent to sort of give it that old timey horror movie style to it, give it that feeling, those tensions, that drama, and it succeeded there. I loved it. I'm glad they did it. I wish they would do more of it, but this might be Marvel testing the waters, and based on the reactions so far and the positive reviews that have been received, I'd say they will probably do more of this or something along the lines. What are your general thoughts or overview for Werewolf by Night?
Now, by Night actually felt like a pilot, for a test run to see if there's I guess, an audience for this type of genre. A monster movie. Basically, that's what Werewolf by Night is. But going further back into the story that they tell you, very interesting. The backstory. I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to ruin everything for people that might be watching at this point. But the backstory, the cast of characters, and whatnot, it has a storied history, and if they would go ahead and dive into that into a series, and they would kind of do like a prequel almost and focus on that, and kind of gradually bring along what's going on right now, from the past, and then kind of making it flow into the present. That would be really cool, because you'd have a first season focused on what transpired as far as the history, and then maybe go into a second season of what's happening now, so that would be interesting to me. But it just felt like a pilot episode, garnered the interest. I guess they wanted to see what the ratings were going to be. I'm interested to see what the ratings are at this particular juncture for something as unique as Werewolf by Night, because fans are always used to seeing things in, color. Even like with WandaVision, they delved into the black and white genre, of that old sitcom style, and it had a very good reception by the fan base, and I'm sure this one's going to be in that same reception by the fans, where they're going to love the stylized look to it, very artistically done as far as the black and white. I mean, a lot of things that they could get away with as far as the gore factor goes, because it's black and white, So I like the way that they got around some of that, the goriness of the film.
Yeah, if you are a big Marvel fan, you will be surprised on sort of what you're seeing for the first time in this special presentation. The violence is definitely elevated to a level not really seen a whole lot with a Marvel Studios production, but as you mentioned, having things in black and white definitely helps to um, level it out a little bit. Something that has been done recently, I think back to, I think it's Kill Bill 2, where they did it, where they would take out the color, but you would still see, blood splatter or like blood squirting. But the fact that all the color was removed from the scene, it helps to kind of give this give it sort of a whimsical type feel to it. It makes it fun despite the fact that you're seeing a number of goons being slaughtered. Anyways, let's get to our spoilery discussion, and this is where we'd like to let you know that we're going to be thoroughly, we're going to be talking thoroughly about Werewolf by Night, and we don't want to spoil anything for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. So here's your
You
warning.
might want to say that
From
again,
here on
Ted, because
out,
you cut in and out real bad.
yeah, all right. All right, let's get into our spoilery discussion. If you have not seen Werewolf by Night, now is your opportunity to pause this video, go check out Werewolf by Night on Disney Plus, and come back and see what else we got to say about that. So, here is your final warning. And we're going to start out this discussion, how we start out most of our discussions, with a very brief summary of the project. Here we go. Werewolf by Night, the special presentation. Ulysses Bloodstone, the former head of a group of monster hunters, has passed. His powerful bloodstone goes to the winner of a free for all ritual where the goal is to be the first to vanquish a horrific beast, aka Ted, aka Man Thing, who just so happens to be a friend of our protagonist Jack Russell, played by Gael Garcia Bernal. Russell is secretly a werewolf who is only here to release his friend, but his secret is discovered, and he and his newly found acquaintance Elsa must fight for their survival. Let's start off with this intro because if you wanted to set the tone of this special presentation, you accomplished that with the Marvel opening credits, turning the fanfare song into black and white a few seconds into it, not at the very start of it, but changing the logo into black and white, showing the werewolf claws, hearing the screams, hearing the remixed horror version of it all. It is perfect. It is so good. I was I was in a joyous mood hearing it played that way. I'm like, "Oh my god, this is so amazing and beautiful." I wish I was seeing this in a theater and I was one day off from potentially seeing this at a film festival in Austin, Texas, where they premiered this. The world premiere for Werewolf by Night was in Austin, Texas, and I missed it by one night, unfortunately. But yes, this opening intro is just incredible, and then I love just this opening scene. Learning this compound, seeing all the artifacts, all these kooky characters that are all monster hunters, and then the host, if you will, of this funeral, um, him being played as an animatronic. Oh my god! I'm like, I'm loving every single bit of this so far. You must have been having a good time as well. I'm hoping.
No, I did. It was I like the intro, like the backstory, of the bloodstone, and they're showing them going after the monsters, hunting them down, and and then when you come into the guild, because this is a guild, a monster hunter guild, everybody's coming
Yep.
in to pay their respects to their fallen leader, you know, and of course they're there for the bloodstone. That's one of the perks of having your king or your leader uh, pass on. Now everybody's vying for the bloodstone, and that's basically the reason that they've all gathered there. But uh, the guy that passed away, I forget his name.
Ulysses Bloodstone.
Ulysses. It was hilarious because the person that's in charge of the caretaker of the grounds, he's there kind of winding him up, as everybody's there, and he's just keeps on winding and keeps on going, and the coffin opens up, and it's a whole bit. It's all about theatrics, and he's just animatronic corpse at this point, kind of like the crypt keeper. It's really poorly done, but it's so funny, And then he says, "What does he say?" He ends it with, "I'll be rotting to see you," or something like that. "I'll be rotting
Dead
for
dad
you."
jokes.
Yeah, "I'll be
Yeah,
rotting
I'll be
for you."
rotting for you.
Yeah. So that was hilarious, man. And in his lover, the lady that's in charge of this whole thing, she's just getting a kick out of it, dude. She's laughing it up, having a good time, and everybody's just there like, "Oh my god," they can't believe what's going on. And then of course, the real movie ensues where she even says you're not allowed to take in any of your weapons. Everything you need as far as weapons and whatnot has been scattered throughout this labyrinth, this maze that they all have to go in. Basically, the last man standing gets the bloodstone. I guess you could say they're basically going and fighting against each other with whatever they can find in this labyrinth, this maze. So that's where the real fun starts.
So good, and just the fighting was so entertaining because it doesn't take itself too seriously, but at the same time these deaths are brutal. I mean, they're really going for it. There's one dude that's like impaled with a dagger of some kind.
Oh, it was his hand arrow. He has an arrow mounted
Oh my
onto his
gosh, that's
wrist,
right.
and they chopped off his arm. It fell down into this little median in between the concrete. It's like a little garden, or something. And he's fighting Elsa, and they're just going at it. And she finally looking for a weapon, and she's like, "Oh, I remember he had a weapon on his arm." And that's when she points it at him and kills him with his own hand arrow, and it right through the bottom of his
Oh
jaw,
yeah.
poking out through his head. And she's they fall into the little garden area, and she's putting her hand over him because there's another monster hunter there, and she doesn't want to give her position because she doesn't want to fight the guy. So she's trying to make this guy be quiet, and he's on. Then he, of course, he succumbs
Slowly
to his
dying.
energy. Yeah, he's slowly. It's like that Fuji's uh, song, "Killing Me Softly."
Oh
That's
gosh.
exactly what happened to him. He stopped moving after a while. He was dispatched.
There you go. Yeah, they don't hold back on these death scenes, and the fighting is brutal. But that's what's so intriguing about this whole story is that it turns into this free for all, and you don't expect it. You're just like, okay, first one to take down the beast wins the stone, but they're all also trying to stop one another.
Yeah,
So the camaraderie that starts at the beginning of this, I'm going to call it episode of this episode, clearly goes away as they're trying to rip each other's heads off. It's funny. It's so interesting. It's unlike anything we've really seen from Marvel, but it's so well done. Um, and then not to mention the reveal that this beast who is screaming in the background and terrorizing, off screen the entire time, ends up being Man Thing, a sort of comic favorite amongst fans, Marvel's equivalent to Swamp Thing, and he looks spectacular. Like the graphics, the animation, the design of everything is
comic
just
accurate.
spot on.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, spot on completely.
yeah. And then the funny thing is that they went ahead and attached the bloodstone to this beast to really get him riled up, to get him angry, because it's supposed to inflict pain and discomfort and make him even more animalistic, so he's really fighting these hunters and dispatching them, you know uh very violently with his hands. He causes them to basically burn up to ash,
Yeah.
and the werewolf, finally, his friend the werewolf finally finds him, and he's like, "Hey Ted, is that you? I'm gonna get you out of here, bud." And he's like, he's mad, and then he like changes his tune right away. He's like, "Little puppy dog, oh, my buddy's here to save me," and he's just basically he's scared. That's the sad thing about this whole thing, is that he's scared. He's just been dropped in this situation which he did not want to be a part of. He's being forced to, and he's having to kill these hunters because not because he wants to, but he's just trying to defend himself. He wants to get out of there and just get back to his home, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So you feel bad for the guy, He's like, he's not a real monster. He's just he's misunderstood, and his name is Ted.
We're all misunderstood. That's what it comes down to,
Yeah.
Joe. We're all misunderstood. Um, yeah, there's so much humor in this. Again, I'll call it episode. There's
Yeah.
so much humor in it. It never takes itself too seriously. There's multiple twists and turns. Uh, Jack and Elsa sort of joining forces against her parents. Really, she's at complete odds with her mother, who's insane, by the way. But just everything that comes after this, and then it's also sadistic. They capture the two of them, Jack and Elsa. Discover he is a monster of some kind, and then the next scene, the mother locks her daughter in a cage with a person who's a known monster, and you're just like, what mother would do this to their daughter? Dear God, man. But what goes on from there is the transformation, which is just so beautifully shot and well done. And it's great to see how accurate he looks to the comics as the werewolf. And then I don't know. I just loved it. We've talked so many times about werewolf transformations in movies and other projects, and this is just right up there with them. This is so cool the way they did it.
I think one of the things that even my friend Rudy's the one that was me and him were talking about it, and we both kind of agreed on this. One of the things that really stood out to us was during the transformation, um, when the werewolf finally starts attacking, the guild members. You see one thing that I really haven't seen before in like a monster film, is you see the gore, happening in front of you. He's dispatching guild members, tearing them up. but the splatter of blood on the camera, it was great. Chef's kiss, because it's like the blood splatters on the lens, and they don't bother cleaning it or anything. It just stays there. And then more blood splatters with guts and stuff on there. It was really cool, to see that kind of stuff going on. Especially, again, it's on Disney Plus of all things, and made by Marvel Studios. So again, it was really, really refreshing to see that. It was a really unique take, beautifully shot.
Everybody talks about the Daredevil hallway scene. Well, this is the werewolf hallway scene. The camera never cuts for about a minute, maybe a little less, but it's around a minute. Camera doesn't cut, and it stays stationary. Doesn't even fall jack through this hallway most of the time, and he keeps going in and out of the frame, but you can still see bodies being flung and blood being thrown, and it's just so good. Meanwhile, the light is sort of decreasing throughout this entire sequence, and it's just so well thought out, and
Yeah.
it's effective. It's so good, and like you said, I'm pretty sure it's special effects or just post blood added in on the video,
Probably
but
using blood.
the fact that they just thought about putting it in there and just letting it run throughout this entire sequence is just beautiful. It's just so it's the little details, they
Yeah.
really spent the time, thought this out, and it shows. And you give them, you applaud them for the effort because
Yeah.
it's unlike anything else we've seen.
No, it was beautifully done. That was the culmination of everything that happened in that particular mini movies. Basically, what this is. So that was the big payoff in the end. The dramatic fight sequence, and the werewolf actually recognizing Elsa, because before he even changed, he went and he was sniffing her hair and her skin, and he's like, "I'm trying to remember you. I'm trying to remember you." She's like, "Has it worked?" He goes, once." And he does try to attack her. He jumps on her like he's gonna rip her apart, and she starts talking to him, and he kind of starts to remember who she is, and he leaves her alone, and he moves on to the other guild members. So there's some type of connection between him and Elsa. Maybe there's a kindred, friendship there, because it didn't look like neither one of them wanted to really be there. And they
Yeah.
were just trying to help each other. And basically, I think that was the bond. Hey, I don't want the bloodstone. I'm just here for my friend. You can have it. Just let me get my friend. I'm going to leave, in peace. And I think she kind of respected him. He's like, well, he's actually trying to help me and not kill me.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great story. It's short, like we mentioned. You want more of it, definitely. You want
Yeah.
more of it, and I hoping that they extend this character's story in a future project or multiple projects within the MCU. And just the way it ended, Man Thing comes back, sort of comes to the rescue. He kills Elsa's mom, saves her life, and then
Well, she's the one that put the damn bloodstone on him to begin with and hurt him.
yeah, and then Ted just looks at Elsa like, sorry."
But I got the sense that that really wasn't her mom. I kind of got the sense that that might be maybe her stepmother.
I could see a scenario where that could be true. Yeah,
That's just how I perceived it.
yeah,
Because she
I,
said a lot of key things though that made me believe that that's not her mother, because she kept referring to her father, and you betrayed your father, and you did this to your father, instead of saying, referring to her as a daughter, referring to her, in that regards, as a mother has an affection for her child, even though they might have betrayed them or what have you. They're still going to speak to them as their child, and there was no ownership there. It was like full on, just cold, don't care for you. I'm just here for your dad. It seemed like she was just enamored with her father. It's like maybe they winded up meeting further along. And Elsa's mom actually maybe passed away, and this was the stepmother.
I could. Yeah, no, I think so. That could make more sense too, if it turns out to be true.
Yeah.
Or it probably is actually. But yeah, no, I love this. And then to sort of end with a cherry on top, Jack gets away, Man Thing takes off, and they wake up sort of in a wooded area. And what starts playing? Somewhere over the rainbow.
Rainbow.
Meanwhile, the picture turns from black and white to color, and it's just so nostalgic. Brings back so many memories and so
Yeah.
many wonderful feelings.
Little nod to Wizard of Oz there at the end.
Absolutely, absolutely. So it's just again, um, well thought out, well executed. Love the dialogue, love the music throughout, and really, really overall, just a big success. Marvel's been really trying to flex their muscle a little bit and do some different formats with projects. WandaVision explored sitcoms throughout the decades. She-Hulk is exploring a sitcom sort of in modern times, and now here we are exploring sort of a 1920 or 30s black and white horror movie from really start to finish, just throughout, trying to invoke all of those key components and elements. There's even cigarette burns in the corner of the pictures. If you worked at a movie theater like I did when I was a teenager, those cigarette burns would tell you when to splice the two reels together. This is where they would go and they would change from one reel to another. So we don't do that anymore. Everything is completely digital. There might be a few theaters in town that still do that, but not many. But either way, it's just they really went out and tried to incorporate so many different elements, and it was just fantastic. I loved it.
I'm going to let you know where Werewolf by Night stacks up as far as the ratings go, uh,
Ooh.
with the other Marvel series that have come out. Top of the list right now was Miss Marvel, with 97% uh, score from the critics, 80% from the audience. What if 94% from the critics, 93% from the audience? You have Werewolf by Night, 92% from the critics, 94% from the audience. And Loki had 92% rating from the critics, 90% from the audience. Hawkeye, 92% from critics, 90% from the audience. Then we look at WandaVision, 91% from the critics as far as its rating, 88% from the audience. She-Hulk, 87% from the critics, 36% from the audience. Moon Knight, 86% from the critics, 90% from the audience. And then finally, Falcon and the Winter Soldier, 84% from the critics, 83% from the audience. Werewolf by Night is performing at a high level right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Critics, fans alike enjoying it, really accepting of the format that they are putting it in. And like I mentioned, Marvel is trying to flex a little bit, taking some risks by putting projects in sort of a familiar environment based on the comics that they come from. Miss Marvel, Werewolf by Night, She Hulk. They've all, kind of been put into very specific tones and shows, and it's high quality all around. So yeah, looking forward to more. Looking forward to more Werewolf by Night. Hopefully, Marvel takes gets the hint, and we will see more future projects with Jack Russell and other creatures from the Marvel comics.
No, you definitely want to see more of this particular style. Beautifully shot, beautifully scored. You couldn't say enough good things. It was so unique and different from anything that uh, Marvel has done to date. Beyond just WandaVision is the only other thing that you could kind of compare it to. But each one of these series, and one of them's a series, one of them's a standalone little movie. They're unique. They're different. They're unique in their own ways. So we need to see more of that. I think that's what the fans are really wanting. I get they're getting tired of the same old, they want something a little different.
Absolutely. All right, and that'll do it for us. Happy October, folks. More horror movies and Halloween type celebrations coming from the Geekcast throughout the month of October. Be sure to check back on social media or on our YouTube channel at Countdown City Geeks to find not only more reviews but also some interviews that might be around the corner. For the Geekcast, this has been our Werewolf by Night review. My name is Ted, aka Steady, and joining me tonight is the man behind the magic, Joe Garcia.
Thanks for putting up with us and staying to the very end of the Werewolf by Night review that me and Ted did. We greatly appreciate y'all's support. And like always, make sure you like, subscribe, and share and get the word out about the Countdown City Geekcast. We greatly appreciate everything that you guys do for us. We do these things for you.
Yes, we do. Have a good night, folks.
Peace.